Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jess, and in today's video, I am going to show you how I price my handmade products tutorial style. So we'll go into a full example and breakdown. I'm also going to be sharing some tips and advice around pricing, since although there are some hard and fast rules that you should follow, there's also some flexibility and adjustments you can make to suit your specific business. So let's get started. Okay guys, so just a few things I want to say before we get into the bulk of the video. I'm going to be off screen for pretty well the rest of this video as I made a little slideshow, which we will go through together now. I figured it would just be easiest for you to see everything in front of you instead of trying to figure it out on your own. Feel free to pause this video as we go to write things out, or you can watch it all the way through first to get the general idea and then go back and watch it again. I do also want to note that I have already recorded this video, but for some reason the audio was really wonky, so I actually went out and bought a little microphone, so I am re-recording this portion of the video with a microphone, and I'm going to re-upload it to YouTube. So if you've seen it before and the audio was terrible and you still managed to make it back, thank you. Hopefully this sounds a little bit better for you. And if the picture doesn't exactly match the words, well, now you know why. So, all right, I have a couple more things I want to go over real quick, and then we will get into it. So I just wanted to mention that I use a spreadsheet for this, so I am going to go over all the math and the calculations, but to make it easier for you, especially if you have a ton of different products, create a spreadsheet for yourself with the calculations. So all you have to do is type in your base numbers, and the spreadsheet will do the rest for you, and then it makes it 10 times easier, and it's so fast when you get new products in and you're trying to figure out your pricing. I also just wanted to mention that I'm not going to get too much into the strategy of pricing. There's already so many videos out there about it, and this video is really just going to focus on the formula that I use to price my products, with a couple of variations that you may choose to use if you'd like, and of course with a full breakdown of how to use it. All right, so let's get into it. Feel free to grab your calculators and a notepad if you'd like to take notes. So this is the formula that I use to price all of my products. It is COGS plus labor plus overhead times your markup equals your wholesale price. Then you take your wholesale price, you times that by another market, and that is going to get you your final retail price. Now this will work for handmade products. This is not for service-based businesses. I just want to put that out there. If you're a service-based business and you're looking for pricing formulas, this is not for you. I have no idea how you guys do that, okay? If you manufacture your products, this formula might need a few tweaks just because you'll have less or no labor costs, but it's definitely still usable if you manufacture, okay? It's important to know here that you also need to include a wholesale price in your formula, even if you don't sell or don't plan to sell wholesale. And we're going to get into the why behind that in just a little bit. So for now, let's break down my pricing formula with an example. All right, so starting with the first part of the formula, COGS, which if you don't know what that stands for is cost of goods sold, is the total cost of every piece of material that goes into a product. Now, this doesn't mean that you buy a ball of yarn and that's what you input here. You're only going to charge what you use per item. So if you used 6 inches of that yarn, you would charge for 6 inches out of that total cost. You'd have to break that down. So for the example, I'm going to price my wooden spoons just because it's easy for me and it's something I use all the time. These are not numbers that, these are not my actual numbers. They're just numbers that I pulled off the top of my head. So they aren't exact, but they are pretty close to my actual numbers. So you should get a good idea, okay? So wooden spoons. I purchased 100 spoons for $350. Make sure to include shipping, tax, any duties you may have put in here. Divide the $350 by the number of spoons to get the per piece cost. That's what we want, is per piece, in order to get the proper calculations for each product item that you're going to sell, okay? So dividing 350 by 100 is going to get you $3.50. And so the next part of the calculation is the beeswax mineral oil finish that I use. So let's say that I purchased one jar for $22.35, which finishes approximately 200 spoons. So we divide 1 by 200, that will get us 0.005. Multiply that by the cost of our entire jar, that is going to get us 11 cents, which is going to be the cost per piece for the oil. Finally, we need to add all of the costs of our materials together to get our total materials cost, or the COGS. Now, this example, there's only 2 things, so it's pretty quick and easy. But if you did something like candles, where you had a whole bunch of different materials involved, you'd have to add everything together. So if we add $3.50 plus 11 cents, we are going to get $3.61 as our total COGS. Okay, next is labor, but before we get into that, I just want to let you know that we are going to go back to the formula at the very end and input all the numbers so that it makes sense. I'll have it all done on one sheet so you can see the formula and the numbers so that you understand it a little bit better, okay? So next we are getting into labor. Labor is the time it takes you to make the product from start to finish, and you are going to decide your hourly rate. So I choose my labor cost based on what I would pay someone to do the job. If and when you get to the point of hiring, you're going to be paying someone to do this, so you want to make sure that their pay is covered in this. Ideally, obviously, you're going to be paying yourself more since you're the CEO and the boss, so you want to be realistic in what you're putting in your product cost. All right, so for our example continued, there's going to be 3 steps involved with this. So tracing the pattern on the spoon typically takes me about half a minute. We need to convert this to hours. So we're going to take the 0.5 minutes and divide that by 60. That is going to get us 0.0083. And we're going to times that by $15, which is going to get us 13 cents for that half minute. Next step up is going to be wood burning the spoon on, and that takes me typically about 15 minutes. So 15 divided by 60 to get our time in hours is going to be 0.25. We're going to multiply the 0.25 by $15 an hour, and that will get us $3.75. Then we apply the finish, which is going to be another half minute at 13 cents, and then we add all of those together, and that is going to get us $4.01 as our total labor cost. Okay, so now we are moving on to overhead. I'm going to tell you right now that this is one that I consider optional. Personally, I do not include overhead in my product pricing because I don't make enough product in a month to have this included. You'll understand what I mean in a minute, but let's go over the costs you may include in your overhead. Overhead is the monthly cost of utilities and equipment needed to make the product divided by the average amount of products made each month. So, for example, I'm just going to list off a bunch of stuff here. So website, hydro, internet use, phone, laptop, and my wood burner are all things that I would use to make the product. So that's what I would include in my overhead. So website fees are pretty basic. Obviously, you just put in the monthly cost to that. Something like hydro is a little bit more complicated because especially if you work out of your home, you can't use your entire hydro bill as part of your overhead. You can only use what applies to your business. So how I like to do this is I take the square footage of my home. So say my house is 1,000 square feet, divide that by my office space, which say for this example is 100 square feet. That's 10%. So I use 10% approximately of hydro towards my business. Internet and phone are kind of the same situation. If you have a business phone, you can use 100%, but typically people use their personal phones, so we say it's about 50-50, and then the same with internet, okay? Now for laptop and wood burner and any other equipment that you're going to be using, you want to depreciate it, which means you need to take the approximate lifespan of that product. So say my laptop is going to last me for 5 years, then I would take the total cost of my laptop and divide that in months by the 5 years, and that would get me my dollar amount, which in this case is $12.50 a month. And I did the same thing for my wood burner, which I expect to last me about 10 years. Okay. Okay, so now that you've got all of your overhead broken down by monthly cost, we're going to add them all together to get our monthly overhead. Okay, so for example, we're going to take all the costs we just did, we're going to add them all up, and that's going to give us $176.70. Okay, so that is our monthly overhead cost. Now you want to estimate how many products you make each month and divide this by that number. So let's say for this example, let's assume that we make 250 products per month. So we are going to take our total monthly overhead, which is $176.70, divide that by the number of products, which is 250, and that is going to give us 71 cents in overhead. Now, I just want to say this is where you can see if I only made 25 products per month, say, I'd have to charge more than $7 per piece in my overhead cost, which is just completely unrealistic for most businesses, for all businesses really. So more likely, you're just going to have your overhead costs as part of your monthly office expenses that you pay off. That you're going to pay out of your profits, right? However, if you are selling a significant amount of product each month, it is absolutely an option for you to include overhead costs here because it's going to help pay the bills, right? So that's why I wanted to include it so that you have it as an option should that work for you, okay? Now it's time to decide on our markup. So your minimum markup should be times 2 for each part of the calculation, but a typical markup is between 2 and 2.5. However, if you're in an industry that allows for a higher markup, like fine jewelry, and you can do 3, 4, 5 times or even more, absolutely do that, okay? So for this example, though, we are going to use a 2 times markup. All right, so we want to take all of the totals that we have just gotten and add them together. So our COGS plus labor plus overhead for using it equals the cost it takes to make our product. So for our example, 361 plus 401 plus 71 cents is going to get us a total of $8.33 for the total cost of our product. So now that we have that, we're going to take the cost of our product and multiply it by our first markup, which is times 2. This gets us our wholesale price. So that's going to be $16.66 because we took $8.33, multiplied that by 2. I should also say here that you can actually have a different markup between wholesale and retail. So you could do 2.2 for one and 2 for another, or vice versa. But that's totally up to you, and it's something that you can play around with a little bit later. Okay. So now we take our wholesale price and we are going to multiply that by 2, which is our retail markup, and that is going to get us a total of $33.32. Okay. So why include a wholesale price if you don't sell wholesale? First of all, nobody knows what the future holds. What happens if a store reaches out to you and you decide maybe you would like to try selling in retail stores? What if something like Target reached out to you, or Hallmark, or something huge? That would be a huge opportunity that you would want to at least be able to decide yes or no on, right? What if you decide you want to run a sale? You need to have profit margin for that. You need to have margin to be able to offer discounts. What if you want to bundle some of your products together with a slight discount to entice people to buy a bit more, to increase your cart value, right? So having this extra market is going to allow all of these things to happen, okay? Hopefully you think on that a little bit and it convinces you to include this markup in your cost, but it's something that I really want you to think about and take seriously. And you know what? If you never do end up selling wholesale, well, you know what? You're just going to have really great profit margins, okay? Okay, so speech over, moving on. Here's that formula again, and here's our example that we just did with all the numbers so you can see it all in action. So 361 plus 401 plus 71 cents is our COGS, labor and overhead. We times that by 2 to get $16.66. Multiply that by 2 to get our total of $33.32. So I like to round up to the nearest dollar on this just because I think it looks better. I don't like having random dollar amounts. So I would charge $34 for the spoon. If you're going to round up and not down so that you ensure you're getting your full profit margin plus a little bit extra in there, okay? All right, so we've got our final price. We should be done, right? Not quite. So now that you've got your final price of what you want to charge, I want you to do some research. And we didn't do the research first because I didn't want you to be biased in your calculations. So let's get into some tips and things to consider before we make our final decisions on our pricing, okay? So first things first, after you have done your calculations and come up with a price, it's a good idea to do some market research on products that are similar to yours to see what the market can bear. You want to make sure you're at least around the range of what seems to sell. So if you had a $300 retail price for a candle, you aren't likely to sell too many candles. Unless there's something very special about them, and you're selling to a very niche audience. I am sure that there is someone out there that sells $300 candles, but for most of us, we are likely not going to be in that price range. So research your competition, but don't base your pricing off of what their prices are. We don't want to race to the bottom situation here, okay? So now, if your retail price ends up being lower than you anticipated, Play with the markups. Try increasing to 2.5 or 3 and see where that price gets you. This is a good problem to have, obviously, because it means your profit margins are really good. So don't fret if your prices are too low, then you've got room to play with some stuff and see if you can be even more profitable, okay? If your retail price is too high though, and you don't think you can market the product at that cost, look into each category and see where you can reduce your pricing. For example, in your COGS, can you source a cheaper material somewhere else? So if you're making candles and you have a wax company, I'm sure there's tons of different wax companies out there. Research a few different companies, call them up, send them emails, see if they have a cheaper price. If you already have the cheapest price, can you buy in larger bulk quantities for a lower price? So instead of buying 10 pounds of wax, can you buy 50 pounds of wax? I don't know anything about candles, so I don't know why I'm using this example, but you get the point, right? And then could you use less material? This won't always apply to everybody. But if it applies to you, look into it, see if it helps, okay? Next would be our labor. So here I would try batching your work to see if you can go faster. So instead of tracing one spoon, burning one spoon, and finishing one spoon at a time and getting all the materials out to do every step one at a time, try doing it in batches of, say, 10, for example, and see if it goes faster. So you're going to trace 10, burn 10, and finish 10. It should speed up your labor time. I know that if I had to do it, that I could burn 10 spoons by batching them hours faster than I could do them one at a time. So definitely try batching your work if that's applicable to your field and see if that helps. Last is overhead. Now, like I said, I don't personally include overhead in my pricing. So if you only make a few sales or a few products per month, it may not be feasible to even add this in the cost right now. So consider removing it and keeping overhead as an office expense. Or if you really want to have overhead included, then try reducing your office expenses wherever you can. Okay, finally, be confident in your pricing. You've done your research, you've gotten the best price you can, and your time and talents are worth it. You are not going to be in everyone's price range, but guess what? Affordability is not your responsibility. Your target audience is the only people you are selling to. When you sell to everyone, you sell to no one, so don't worry about being out of some people's price range. This is your business, and you need to be profitable. Congratulations, guys. You now know how to price your products for profit. You can safely run sales, promotions, create discount bundles, and even offer wholesale pricing for brick and mortar shops without worrying if you are still making money. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize for not really showing my face very much in this video. I just figured that doing the video this way would be a lot easier to get the information across to you. You could pause the video, you could take notes. Since it's a little bit heavier than what we normally do. Normally it's more casual chatting, but this was pretty intense. So good job for getting all the way through if you made it this far. If you found this video to be helpful, please let me know by liking this video, give it a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments too if you tried this pricing formula, if you liked it, what you didn't like about it. And if you'd like more tutorial style videos like this one, definitely let me know that too. I love creating content and it's all about what you guys want. So I don't want to make stuff that you don't want to see. So if this is something that you really enjoyed, let me know and we can absolutely do more videos like this. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.